Hey everyone, it's Nathan Orenstein with The No Show here to talk about Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, Cliff Curtis, and Zon McLaren and is written by Mike Flanagan. It's based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King and is a sequel to 1980's The Shining. For those of you who've been watching The No Show since the very beginning, you'll know that I absolutely love Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It's a nearly perfect horror film and its legacy is still going strong 40 years later. Based on all this, it's really only fair that I had my doubts going into this film. Mike Flanagan has quietly built himself up to be one of the best horror directors of the past decade, but he's still no Kubrick. Luckily, any doubts I had going in soon dissolved, and I genuinely loved Dr. Sleep. Before we really dive into how Dr. Sleep acts as its own individual film, we need to talk about how it works as a sequel to The Shining. But before we do that, I have 2 points I want to make. 1. In my opinion, you can watch this movie, follow along, and still have a great time with it, even if you haven't seen The Shining. You're obviously not going to get the full experience as someone who has, but I still think it's definitely worth watching either way. 2. This movie is nothing like The Shining. It's doing its own thing entirely, and it's really refreshing and a good choice in my opinion. I don't even think I'd classify Dr. Sleep as a horror film. It's more of a thriller with some horror elements thrown in. Now that that's out of the way, we can talk about how The Shining plays a big part in Dr. Sleep, and first I want to start with the story. In case you didn't know, Stanley Kubrick's telling of The Shining is actually quite different from Stephen King's original novel. This puts Dr. Sleep in kind of an awkward position of which story it's going to follow. In the end, it mostly sticks to Kubrick's version, but there are definitely remnants of the original Stephen King novel in here too. Mike Flanagan has really taken this situation into his own hands and has blended the two source materials really well. As someone who enjoyed both the Shining film and novel, I really liked this aspect of the screenplay and I thought it added a bit of depth to the story even. Now, if you haven't read the book, then you're not going to miss out on much because, as I said, this mostly follows the plot of the Shining film. The other side of this is how The Shining affects Dr. Sleep in every sense other than the story. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of callbacks here that feel a little too cheeky, and a couple that even made me roll my eyes. For the first 20 minutes or so, I really wasn't sold on this film specifically for this reason, but luckily they do tone it down quite a bit after this introduction. Not all of the callbacks were like this though, and I really did appreciate some of them, but the things I really loved in Dr. Sleep were the subtle homages to The Shining. I don't want to spoil any of them, but Dr. Sleep is able to incorporate some of the more iconic shots and music from The Shining in a way that's really satisfying, and I think a lot of other fans will agree with this. Okay, that's enough about The Shining. Dan Torrance, played by Ewan McGregor this time around, is now about 40 years old, living his life as a lonely alcoholic. This all starts to change though when a young girl named Abra, played by Kylie Curran, contacts him through her shine. She has witnessed a young boy who could shine get killed by a group of people, and she knows that she's the next target. I'm realizing that Dr. Sleep is actually a bit hard to talk about because of how outlandish and weird it is at times, but this is definitely a good thing, and this kind of strange factor the film has keeps it really fun and interesting. This is best exemplified in Rebecca Ferguson's performance as Rose the Hat, who's such a weird and mystical and charming character that Rebecca Ferguson really steals the show in any scene she's in. Ewan McGregor is really good here too, and his performance grounds the movie in a strange sense. There's so much weird stuff going on around him, but his performance really adds a more human element to Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep is able to weave these two very different tones together in a way that makes this film feel exciting and entertaining for an entire 2.5 hours. The special effects are really great here, and they help to create this fantasy universe and to keep it engaging. The effects feel really unique to Flanagan in his previous work, and I think that this film might be the one that finally makes him a household name in horror. Not only that, but the movie's just really nice to look at overall, and I did not expect the cinematography to be as gorgeous as it is. Most importantly, Dr. Sleep is just a really great time overall, and I love nearly every minute of it. I do, of course, have a couple complaints, though. There are definitely some really dumb jump scares here, and they really don't have to be. They feel totally out of place in this movie, too, making them all the more unwelcome. My other main complaint is that there were some parts of Dr. Sleep that did feel a bit underdeveloped. I think that these parts could probably be removed without affecting any story while still making the movie more concise and even better. I never got bored with this film, but some scenes in particular did leave me wondering why they were even in the movie to begin with. Despite these minor flaws, Doctor Sleep might be my biggest surprise of the year. It's a very worthy follow-up to The Shining, and it's smart enough to do its own thing while still paying homage to The Shining's legacy. This does get a bit heavy-handed at times, and there are definitely parts of this movie that feel inessential, but these are pretty minor complaints in the grand scheme of things. I'd recommend Doctor Sleep to anyone, and I think it's a great movie. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. If you like the review, then go ahead and like and subscribe and click that bell to get notifications for whenever I post. And if you've seen Doctor Sleep before, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Stay tuned for my review of Parasite coming within the next few days. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. Thanks for watching.